Okay, you see it's recording?
It is recording. Yes, thank
Okay.
you, bro.
Okay. So let me introduce. We're very excited to have His Grace Rahul Prabhu serving the Bhagavatam class. He's one of the youth members from our community, and he is very. He has taken a very keen interest in Krishna consciousness and developing Krishna consciousness in his life at a very young age, and we can all learn from that. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumaran Acharit Pragyo Dharman Bhagavatamiha, that one who takes to Krishna conscious very early, the better. The earlier, the better. So we have to, we will take it as early as possible, and we'll take the guidance of people who have taken shelter very young, like Rahul Prabhu, and we can hopefully go back to Godhead. So without further ado, Rahul Prabhu, we just did from 7:45 to 8, we did bhajans. 8 to 9, you can serve the Srimad Bhagavatam, and 9, some answer and some discussion. Hare Krishna. You can take over from now.
Hare Krishna. Can everybody hear me fine?
Yes, Prabhu. Very good.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to purify myself through this class and give me the opportunity to study a Srimad Bhagavatam verse in detail. So the verse I will be discussing today is Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 9th chapter, titles Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy, the 22nd verse. Could I share my screen so I have Vedabase on my screen. Should I just share that?
Yes, the host has to make you a co-host. ISKCON Columbus, can you make Rahul Prabhu the co-host? Is that possible?
Yeah, Hari, hold on. Yeah.
Well, he's waiting for that. All the best, Rahul. Wonderful. Looking forward to hear.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Right.
Hey Rahul, would you want me to share my screen? Oh wait, no,
I'm the co-host. Okay.
I think it should be the course now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can everybody see the verse?
Yes.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 3.9.22. So yam samasta jagatam suradekatma satvena yanmridayate bhagavan bhagena tene vamedishamanu prishatad yataham shakshami purvavadidam pranata priyo. So I'll say it one more time. So yam samasta jagatam suradekatma satvena yanmridayate bhagavan bhagena Taineva medishamanu prishatadyataham shakshami purvavadidam pranata priyo. So I'll say the translation now. Let the Supreme Lord be merciful towards me. He is the one friend and soul of all living entities in the world, and he maintains all for their ultimate happiness by his 6 transcendental opulences. May he be merciful towards me so that I, as before, may be empowered with the introspection to create, for I am also one of the surrendered souls who are dear to the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Lord Purushottam, or Sri Krishna, is the maintainer of all, in both the transcendental and the material worlds. He is the life and friend of all because there is eternally natural affection and love between the living entities and the Lord. He is the one friend and well-wisher for all, and he is one without a second. The Lord maintains the living entities everywhere by his 6 transcendental opulences, for which he is known by Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma prayed for his mercy so that he might be able to create the universal affairs as he did before. Only by the Lord's causeless mercy could he create both material and spiritual personalities like Marichi and Narada, respectively. Brahma prayed to the Lord because he is very much dear to the surrendered soul. The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate to him. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swam Dadatitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sakana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Svitamscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusita Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pachita Deshitarne Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I am going to the way I decided to study this verse is I would do it line by line because there's natural divisions in each sentence, but I'll first go over the context of this verse. There are 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali, and each of those make a kalpa. 1,000 kalpas is 1 day of Brahma, and then 1,000 kalpas is also 1 night of Brahma. But during the night, all the 7 lower planetary systems and 3 of the higher planetary systems get submerged under the causal ocean. So and they're dissolved. So Brahma every morning has to wake up and has to recreate these planetary systems. So this shows some similarities. This is different from other prayers though, because instead of Gajendra is saying in one time, oh Krishna, please save me. Brahma does this every morning. This is just like our japa. We can meditate on these things like in our japa. The 3 P's of japa are supposed to be posture, pronunciation, and prayer. Posture and pronunciation can be taken, but prayer is the one that usually isn't the easiest. So we can meditate on some of these things during our japa. So let's start. So the first line I'll discuss is the Supreme Lord. Let the Supreme Lord be merciful unto me. So I had a couple points about this. First of all, Krishna's mercy is causeless. We can't do something to get Krishna's mercy. It's not like karma. Karma, if we do something, we know we'll get something in return, but Krishna's mercy is causeless. He will give mercy when he feels like we deserve it. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our sadhana. Prabhupada thinks that in one of his purports, Prabhupada thinks that he'll get the counter argument of saying that because Krishna's mercy is causeless, why are we doing sadhana? Because if Krishna's the only way we can get spiritual advancement, why are we doing sadhana? But we're doing sadhana because we want to get prema bhakti and we want to be attached to the glories of Krishna. We want to develop that deep attachment to Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. So we're not doing, we want to get that love for Krishna because that's the only way we can get happiness. So that's why we're doing our sadhana. So our second line here is he's the one friend and soul of all the living entities in the world. So Krishna, we got the pleasure of the darshan of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And I asked him a question about the Sakyam relationship. And he said that Krishna, the friend for, the definition for friend as Krishna is our friend is he's our supreme well-wisher. He's also, one of his names is Bhakta Vatsala, the protector of the devotee. But he doesn't just protect the devotees. He protects the devotees, but inadvertently protects other people as well. We have Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb of Uttara when Ashwatthama threw the Brahmastra. And although Parikshit Maharaj hadn't done any sadhana because he wasn't born yet, he still was protected by the Lord. He was protected by the Lord inside Uttara's womb. So what will he do to a devotee who's been practicing bhakti for their entire life, and is really advanced in devotional service? Similarly, Ajamil was a Brahmin at first, but then he became very sinful. He engaged in a lot of sense gratification. He cheated a lot to get a lot of money, and at the end of his life, the Yamudutas came, and he called out Narayan a couple times, but that wasn't even for Krishna. That was for his son. But still, Krishna sent the Vishnu Dutas to protect him. What will Krishna do for us? We're chanting 16 rounds a day. That's 1,728 Mahamantras a day. What will he do for us? He'll definitely protect us if he protected Ajamil and Parikshit. He's our soul friend as well. All the friends in our world are temporary. They might do something that we like, and then the next day they'll do something that we don't agree with. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna is always on our side. There's a common Christian prayer where you probably heard this before. The devotee says, "When I was happy, I saw 2 footprints in the sand, and I assumed that one of them was mine and one of them was God's, yours. But when the going got tough, I only saw one set of footprints. Where were you?" But then God responds, "I was there. The footprints were actually mine. I was carrying you." So Krishna is our supreme well-wisher. He's our friend. He's the crutch for bad times, and he'll make sure that we get through everything for our own spiritual advancement. The second line, the next line I'd like to discuss is, "And he maintains all for their ultimate happiness by his 6 transcendental opulences." So in the 5th canto, there's another verse. I'll just read the Sanskrit translation. It's describing Bharat Maharaj. The translation is, Sukadeva Goswami continued, "My dear king, the activities of Bharat Maharaj are wonderful. He gave up everything difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife, his family. His opulence was so great that even the demigods envied it, yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord." So the line that I saw is, he could renounce everything because he was attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation are his 6 opulences. So part of the duty of a devotee is to renounce our opulences and just serve Krishna, just be attracted to the master of all opulences. So I thought that was interesting. And then I'll go through each of the 6 transcendental opulences and show how Krishna maintained a devotee. Before I do that, I think there are some words that are pretty interesting here. The first of them is there. There is a pronoun for somebody else. So Brahma is not saying for his ultimate happiness, not for Krishna's ultimate happiness. Brahma is saying for their ultimate happiness, the living entities in the world. So everything Krishna does is for our ultimate happiness. Krishna is Karuna Sindhu. He's merciful to all of us. He is always happy and he wants us to be happy. But he also knows that the only way to be happy is to develop a deep love for Krishna. That brings it to the next word here is ultimate. Ultimate usually means not a permanent happiness. This material world is not permanent. This is temporary happiness. So Krishna might not give us this material happiness, but that doesn't mean he's not giving us spiritual happiness. Everything that he does for us is giving us growth in our life. It's giving us spiritual growth in our life. And part of the thing about accepting Krishna's will is having the faith in Krishna, saying, okay, I understand that what I'm going through right now is not great materially, but what is Krishna trying to teach me here? And that's the whole purpose. Let's go through the 6 opulences and show how he maintained a devotee. So let's start with wealth. Krishna has many riches and he is also wealthy in terms of power, but how exactly did he maintain a devotee? The devotee that comes to mind here is Sudama. When Sudama went to Krishna, he was very poor. He went to Krishna and offered him just a little puffed rice, and Krishna used his wealth to give him an entire big palace when he hadn't eaten for 15 days. It says that sometimes, and like his family was suffering. He went to Krishna, offered him 1 grain, and Krishna took that 1 grain and turned it into a full palace for his family and him. A full palace, full clothes, all the opulences. So he maintained his devotee by giving them the opulences, the wealth that they needed, because he knew that Sudama was losing his bodily condition, or he was losing his body because he didn't have the material means to protect him. So he was able to give Sudama by his wealth the means to be in bhakti. So the next opulence is fame. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.34, Kirtir Shri Vakshanari Smriti Mega Diti Shama. In woman, I am fame. In our household, we joke a lot about that because my sister is named Kirti. So that's her favorite verse because it says her name in it. But so how would he maintain a devotee with his fame? It's easy to see how somebody could be maintained by their fame, but how did Krishna maintain a devotee with his own fame? So I'll first just define fame a little bit. Fame is just unconditionally listening to someone. You see very common, there'll be big athletes that do very well in their sports, and then an athletic wear company like Nike or Adidas will go and ask them to do a brand deal with them. And then they'll post on their social media, I did this brand deal and I made a shoe specifically catered for me by Nike and it's amazing. And 20 minutes later, all of their fans are on the internet buying a shoe that's very expensive, but because they love this celebrity so much, they're ready to go and buy it very quickly. So using this similar practice, Ram, and this kind of goes into knowledge as well. Ram used his fame to maintain Bharata. When Kaikeyi cashed in her boons to Dasharatha Maharaj, Bharata was not in Ayodhya. He was visiting his in-laws. He and Shatrughna were visiting their in-laws. And the citizens of Ayodhya loved Ram so much that when Ram left, they were very, very distraught, and they thought that because Kaikeyi had asked Ram to leave, that Bharata was the sole cause for Ram leaving. But we all know that Bharata is a very exalted devotee. So when Bharata came back, he was very mercilessly treated. He didn't know what was going on. He wasn't in on this plan. But yeah, he didn't know what was happening. The citizens of Ayodhya didn't like him at all at that point. So he decided to go to the place where Ram was in exile, and go ask him to come back. That was his original intention. And the citizens also wanted to go. So the citizens came and went with him, and he was criticized so many times on the way. But when he finally got there, Ram said, "You be the king, I will stay in the forest for 14 years. So indirectly, after that, all the citizens accepted Bharata as innocent. Indirectly, Ram cleared Bharata's name using his fame, because with the ability of by using his ability of having a lot of people just listen to him very unconditionally, Ram was able to use that and say, Bharat, you're fine, and everybody listened to him. So that's how Bharat's name was cleared by Ram's fame. So that's two opulences. The next opulence is knowledge. So Krishna knows everything. It's said in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmadi asya yaton vayadi taratas jarteshva bignat swarat. Krishna is fully cognizant, fully indirectly and directly cognizant. So he knows everything, regardless of whether we think he does or not. He does know everything. How did he maintain a devotee here? There's two pastimes that come to mind. The first pastime is Sudama pastime. I already mentioned it. But he knew that Sudama came in and said, oh, I'm fine. Here's some puffed rice. But Krishna knew that he wasn't fine. So Krishna could figure out the struggle. He was cognizant of what was happening and decided to eliminate his devotee's struggle that way. And then another pastime is the pastime of Jayadadan. We know from the Mahabharata that Abhimanyu was Arjuna's son, and he was a very, very good fighter in the battlefield. And however, the Kauravas knew this, so they decided to kill him, going against a war code. This is I think the specific scenario was Abhimanyu didn't have a weapon, and by Vedic war code, you can't kill someone who doesn't have a weapon. But Jayadadan killed him anyways. So when Arjuna found out, he was very upset. He started, yelling at everybody in his camp. Everyone was crying, and he said, finally, I am not going. If I do not find my my son's killer, I will walk into a pyre tomorrow night. So, so they know it's Jayadrathan, but the Kauravas' sister, husband is also Jayadrathan, and Yudhishthir did not want his cousin sister to lose her husband. So he sent Bhima to tell the Kauravas. So Arjuna couldn't find him on the day of. He was looking, but the Kauravas had hidden Jayadrathan. So what Krishna did was he threw his Sudarshan Chakra onto the sun, so it looked like it was pitch dark in the night. So Arjuna is getting ready for the pyre, and the Kauravas, just to gloat, bring Jayadrathan back and say, look, Arjuna is going to die now. He's going to commit suicide. And now after this, because Arjuna is a master, is very strong, and he's a devotee of Krishna, so he knows he's going to win. But if he commits the suicide, then the Pandavas will be very weakened, and the Kauravas will have an easy path to victory. So just to gloat, they bring Jayadrathan out as well. And that at that point, when Jayadrathan comes, Arjuna's about to step on, Krishna removes the Sudarshana Chakra. And everyone can see that. Everyone thought it was late at night, but when Krishna removes the Sudarshana Chakra, you can see it's noon. The sun is blazing, and it's very bright outside. So Krishna tells Arjuna, now kill Jayadrathan. So he was able to maintain a devotee using his knowledge. He was able to construct this plan to eliminate Jayadrathan. So the next opulence of Krishna's is strength. Krishna has infinite strength. We know that very well. No one can lose to him in a battle. Even at a young age, Putana and Trinavarta came. They were big demons, but when Krishna was just such a young baby, Kamsa couldn't kill him at all. Even with these big demons, Krishna would defeat them one by one. And he chooses to display his strength as he wants. He doesn't have to follow by anybody's rules. He can choose to display his strength as he wants. But other than the fact that he killed many demons, how did he maintain devotees specifically? And the one favorable pastime is the Govardhan Hill pastime. Hopefully, maybe, if COVID-19 gets a little better, we could maybe be in the temple for Govardhan Hill. We could have like limited darshan or something like that for Govardhan Hill pastime. But we all know he lifted Govardhan after Indra started inundating Vrindavan. And he lifted Govardhan, and all the Vrajavasis and the Gopis and the Gopas came and stayed under the shelter of Govardhan, who's also known as non-different from Krishna. So we celebrate the Govardhan Hill pastime because not only did Krishna show his strength, but he showed his strength to maintain a devotee. So that's a very important part of the pastime. So the next opulence is beauty. So Krishna's beauty is meant to attract devotees. We all know it's mentioned multiple times in the Bhagavatam how every single time Krishna appears, Vyasa Muni takes a couple of verses to write Krishna's beautiful forms. We know that Krishna's very beauty. He has this body luster to it. He's very beautiful, and he can attract anybody. But how did he maintain a devotee with his beauty? The one pastime that comes to mind, and Sharad Purnima is coming up as well, is the Rasa Leela dance. With his beauty, he maintained all the gopis, and they were very happy dancing with him and having fun with him. They were very fulfilled spiritually. So the last opulence is renunciation. So how is Krishna renounced? This is a rather confusing one, because we're saying, oh, he has all these opulences, but he's also renounced. So let's first define renunciation for us. I was reading some Back to Godhead magazines, and Satsvarup Maharaj said, quote, a renunciant is one who gives up all personal or selfish interests while working at the same time for Krishna's. This goes back to Jada Bharat Maharaj. He he gave up all his in his first life. He had some opulence, and then he gave it up, but he then became attracted to a deer. So he wasn't in renunciation, and then after that he had become the deer, and after that he had he became a son of I think it was a Brahmin, but he acted like he couldn't speak, he couldn't hear, just so he wouldn't have any material association. So he'd be very firm in his spirituality. So he was able to renounce all wealth just by he was able to renounce all wealth just by the process of Krishna bhakti. So that's that. So renunciation isn't giving up everything and living somewhere else. We can all have some renunciation in our life, as long as we're giving up our personal interests. I was reading something by Sachinandan Maharaj a couple days ago, and Sachinandan Maharaj says there's two driving forces in the world. One is prema, and one is kama, sense gratification. But prema and kama, they have the same root, which means to love. But prema, the love is directed at Krishna, whereas kama, the love is directed for sense gratification. So everything that we do in this material world can be traced back to either helping us get to prema or indulging in kama. So I think that's a personal decision to make for each and every one of us, that we look at everything we're doing and see if it traces back to Krishna or if it traces back to Maya. And that's how we decide if we are renounced. If there's nothing that we're tracing back to Kamdev, if we're not indulging in our own senses, and we have no personal selfish interests, then we'll be able, and everything is for Krishna, then we are considered a renunciant. We're considered a renunciate. So how is Krishna renounced? He created this material world, but he isn't attached to this world at all. He is neutral. He's maintaining all people in this world, as we've just mentioned, all these opulences. He's using all these opulences to maintain all these jivas in this material world, but he's not attached to it whatsoever. He comes every millennial, but he's still not attached to the fruits of this material world. He doesn't have a material body. He comes in his spiritual body. He's not attracted to it at all, but he created it. So that shows that he can create something and do stuff and not be renounced as well. So the next sentence is, may he be merciful towards me, so that I, as before, may be empowered with the introspection to create. So let's generalize this a little bit. Brahma is creating because it is his duty to create. If he was somebody else, he would probably be praying to do, like if he was a cobbler, he'd say, I need to have the duty to create shoes for people. So we'll generalize this a little bit more. Krishna will help us do our duty, but we have to pray to Krishna to help us do our duty. There's some examples of this. Arjuna, we all know the story, why the Bhagavad Gita was written. Arjuna was like, I can't do my duty. I'm going to drop my bow. I don't know what to do. I'm done. But Krishna helps him do his duty, helps him be a Kshatriya. He's a Kshatriya. He's a fighter. That's his job. So Krishna helps him out. He helps him out with that. And he convinces Arjuna to fight and eventually establish Dharma in the world for a short period of time. And then another example is Sugriva. When Sugriva had moved the rock over the cave with Vali in it, he thought that Vali was dead, so he moved the rock because he didn't want the demon who had killed Vali he had killed Vali to come out. And he started reigning as king. But Vali came out and saw Sugriva and said, "Oh, what are you doing? I've never died. I've never died. Why are you ruling? I should be the ruler." So he reclaims the throne, and he's kind of evil towards Sugriva. So and Sugriva is a devotee of Ram. He wants to deploy all the monkeys to go every which way to search for Sita. So but to do that, he needs to become the king. So Ram helps Sugriva do that duty by when Vali and Sugriva have that battle, he stands behind the tree and shoots the arrow. So he kills Vali, and therefore letting Sugriva do his duty. But in each of these examples, what was their ultimate duty? If we look at that, Arjuna's ultimate duty was to win the battle at Kurukshetra, and have devotees be in power for a little bit of time before before Kali Yuga started. So to establish a little bit of dharma, and Sugriva wanted to deploy the monkeys, deploy the Vanaras, like Hanuman and Angad, and everybody to look to go through the north, south, east, and west to go and find Sita. So in each of these scenarios, the duty, our ultimate duty, was to serve Krishna. Even in our Mahamantra, it is sometimes said that it's translated, "Oh Rama, oh Krishna, oh your energy, oh Krishna's energy, Hare, please engage me in your service." It's not please. It's not give me your mercy or something like that. It's please engage me in your service. So our real duty is to serve Krishna. That is our final duty. Krishna will put us in situations that'll help our bhakti. So Krishna will put us in situations that won't be contrary to our duty of devotional service. It won't seem like it now. In his, I think it was in his commencement speech, Steve Jobs for Stanford decided to said, "You can always connect the dots looking backwards." So that can be applied to our devotional life too. Maybe something happens and Krishna puts you in an unfavorable material position for a little bit. But when you look back, you can say, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years later, I see what Krishna wanted to teach me humility, or Krishna wanted to teach me this, or Krishna wanted me to establish me in this service. And that is why Krishna put me through this condition. So Krishna is not punishing us by any means. Krishna is only doing these things so that we can become better devotees and serve him better. So Krishna steals butter from the gopis. Why is he stealing butter from his best devotees? The gopis are working very hard. They're churning the butter for long periods of time. They're getting the milk from the cows. They're churning the butter, and it's sitting there. And every day, Krishna and his friends goes and steals the hard earned butter of the gopis. But the gopis have been very good devotees of the Lord. They love Krishna. So why is Krishna so quote unquote punishing his devotees? But let's see what happens next. The gopis go to Mother Yashoda and complain. But in that sense, while they're complaining, they're also describing Krishna's qualities. So Krishna wanted to do 2 things. One, engage the gopis in Vishnu Smaranam. He wanted to make sure that the gopis were always thinking about Krishna, because they were like, will Krishna steal my butter? And that's what they were always thinking of. He wanted to let them engage in Vishnu Smaranam for a little bit. And also, he wanted to make sure that he wanted to give the gopis the opportunity to give some Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha is just describing the qualities and Leela of Krishna, and showing how Krishna, he stole butter, and he pinched my child, and he made my child cry, or something like that. And he destroyed all the butter in my house. That's all Krishna Katha. Every single time we are describing an action or a pastime of Krishna, that's Krishna Katha. So that he wanted to give the devotees, give the gopis an opportunity to glorify Krishna in that way. So though that may seem contrary, it is in that everything that Krishna does might seem contradictory, but it is for our benefit, and we just have to have that faith. One example of this is Bali Maharaj. So Krishna took everything away from Bali Maharaj, because Bali Maharaj was so materially proud. He wouldn't listen to his guru. He had taken over. He was making the demigods suffer. So Krishna in the form of Vamandev, Vamanadev's appearance was a couple of weeks ago. In the form of Vamandev, came and told Bali, asked for 3 steps of land. Bali, being very prideful, was somewhat insulted, but gave him the 3 steps. Vamandev expands into Mahavishnu and takes the whole universe And at that point, Bali Maharaj got the chance to engage in Atmanivedam, full surrender to the Lord. So we don't know why Krishna is doing things. Why is Krishna taking? Bali Maharaj might have thought, why is Krishna taking me all of this land? But then he said, but there's 2 steps have been taken. Krishna asks where the 3rd step should go, and Bali Maharaj finally surrenders to Krishna and says, "Put that last step on my head." So because the whole material wealth, which was causing him pride, all these anarthas were coming up through Bali, so I was taking him away from Krishna. So Krishna came in the form of Vamandev and decided to stop all of that and help Bali Maharaj get back on track to devotional service. So the last sentence is, "For I am one of the surrendered souls who are dear to the Lord." So, as we mentioned earlier, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala. The key word here is surrendered. So, what does surrendered mean? In the purport here, I'll scroll down. The last sentence says, "The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate towards him." So, one of the processes of bhakti is Vishnu Smaranam, always thinking about the Lord. Whatever you see the Lord in. So that's part of being a surrendered soul. You don't know anything but Krishna. Everything you see is Krishna. So that's what always thinking of Krishna. So that's what we'll still call surrendered soul. Someone who's always thinking of Krishna. So those souls are very dear to the Lord. Krishna loves those devotees. Krishna bestows his mercy on the devotees, but then the argument comes up: hey, is Krishna impartial? Is Krishna partial to his devotees? And the answer here is no. Prabhupada gives an example in the purport. If there's 2 houses, one is made 100% out of bricks, and the other is made out of glass, which house is naturally going to get more sunlight? Obviously, the one that is made out of glass is going to get more sunlight because glass is transparent, so sunlight will come in. The sun is not keeping its sunlight away from the brick house. It's just the fact that bricks are not translucent or transparent, so the light cannot come through. Similarly, we're the ones that are not accepting Krishna's mercy. Krishna showers his mercy onto everybody, but those who are getting Krishna's affection, it's because they have accepted Krishna's mercy. They have accepted Krishna's mercy, and we have not. So part of advancing in devotional service is accepting Krishna's mercy. So that's the only way to advance. That's the first step. We have to take the first step towards Krishna. So I said earlier that Krishna has caused us mercy, but we also still have to take the first step towards Krishna for spiritual advancement. There's a phrase that we have. You take 1 step towards Krishna, and Krishna will take 100 steps towards you. So that's essentially what this is. So you take 1 step towards Krishna, and then when Krishna deems you ready, he will take the 100 steps towards you. So you accept his mercy first. You engage in your sadhana. You do the bhajana kriya and everything, and then once Krishna deems that you are ready, Krishna will bestow his mercy. Prabhupada's father used to say, "There's no point in material. There's no point in big material wealth, because if Krishna has so many hands, if he decides to take everything away from us, what can we do with our 2 powerless hands? But if Krishna decides to give his mercy with his 10 hands, not just 10 hands, his infinite hands, if he decides to give his mercy, we only have 2 hands. We'll not be able to accept it. So Krishna." So we won't be able to see his mercy now. This kind of goes back into what I was talking about we don't know why Krishna is doing things now, but we'll eventually understand that Krishna is bestowing his mercy on us indirectly, and when he fully bestows his mercy and we become spiritually advanced, we won't be able to take it all in. We will be so in awe of Krishna's full potency. So we have to do our sadhana because we enjoy it. We want to be happy. So we have to read Bhagavatam, we have to chant our japa, we have to do all those things. we won't. We again, we have to take that first step towards Krishna. We can't just be idle in our sadhana. We have to first accept Krishna's mercy, the mercy that He's given us to chant even one of His names, or to read one of His glories in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have to accept His mercy first. And then when Krishna deems us ready for spiritual advancement, when Krishna sees that we are pure, we have eliminated most of our ulterior motives, Krishna will give us the spiritual mercy that we need. So in the purport, it says the Supreme Lord Purushottama, or Sri Krishna, is the maintainer of all, in both the transcendental and material worlds. So He's not just the maintainer of the transcendental world or the material world, He's the maintainer of both. But this goes back to the renunciation aspect, that though He's the maintainer of the material world, that does not mean He is material. He is able to renounce it. Prabhupada gives an example multiple times that if the president or the governor or the district attorney goes to a prison to see how the qualities of the prison are, to make sure that the people are being rehabilitated and stuff, that does not mean that all of a sudden that government official will be the president, district attorney, whatever. That doesn't mean that they are going to prison. That means that they're still above the prison, but they're making sure that everything is running smoothly, or running as its correct purpose. And the material world's purpose is to be imperfect, so we have motivation to go back home back to Godhead. So so when Krishna is maintaining, when Krishna is doing His maintenance of the material world, He's doing it so that with the purpose of understanding that all of us jivas have to go back home, back to Godhead. That comes to what I was saying earlier. If Krishna might be giving us some materially poor experiences, and Krishna might not be putting us in a materially strong situation, but Krishna is maintaining us in the material world by giving us, either by making us renounce our material possessions, or on the other hand, increasing our attachment for Krishna. The phrase is diligence for Krishna, dependence on Krishna. So Krishna might be wanting us to depend on Him. So the next line in this purport: He is the life and the friend of all, because there is eternally natural affection and love between the living entities and the Lord. So this is another point. Krishna is not somebody who's unhappy with us. Krishna loves us, and our soul loves Him. So our soul is never not Krishna consciousness. It is never not Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Our soul is always associating with Krishna. But we have so many layers of material conditionings that our duty is we have to take off all those layers of material conditioning, and finally develop eternal natural affection for Krishna, and really take off all of our material conditionings, and let the soul experience unfiltered Krishna consciousness. The next line of the purport is He's the one friend and wisher for all. He's one without a second. So so I mentioned this earlier. He's the one friend. We might have other friends in this world, but they might do something that betrays our trust or something like that. But we have to remember that Krishna is our eternal friend. Whatever we do, he's doing it for our benefit. He's our supreme well-wisher. That's what the term friend means in this scenario, and He's one without a second. So He's the supreme friend, and there's nobody who can even compare to Him. So the next sentence is: the Lord maintains all the living entities everywhere by His 6 transcendental opulences, for which He is known by Bhagavan as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I mentioned His 6 opulences, and described how each of He maintains everybody through those 6 opulences. But He maintains the living entities for our ultimate happiness. Krishna's always happy, but we need to be happy. and the only way we can be happy is with Krishna. What's the point of 6 zeros in a number if there's no 1 in between? This material wealth is so-called zeros because it's temporary, so it's not a full bank. But when you put the one of when you put the Krishna's 1, the 6 zeros, and you put 1 at the beginning, it becomes 1,000,000. So that's the only Krishna's the only way to achieve any sort of true happiness. This material happiness could be the material opulence could be used in Krishna's service if we as we said earlier, if we don't have any personal interest and we're only caring about Krishna's desires and Krishna's interests, then that material opulence could be used for our spiritual happiness. But that's because it's being used for a spiritual purpose. If we're not using it for a spiritual purpose, then it's just a zero. The next line of the purport is, Lord Brahma prayed for his mercy so that he might be able to create the universal affairs as he did before. So Lord Brahma is just like a jiva, is technically a jiva. Yes, he's an elevated in this material universe, but he's temporary. His material body is temporary. His position only lasts for 1,000 of his years. But Lord Brahma prays for his mercy. So even this big Lord Brahma, it said that he has 40 million bedrooms, is praying for his mercy. So if this Lord Brahma is so big, is so powerful, and he is praying for Krishna's mercy, he can't create the universe. Even though he does it, he can't create it alone. It's Krishna as the sole doer. We say that very frequently. Krishna is the sole doer. We cannot create. We cannot do anything without Krishna. Similarly, Brahma cannot create anything without Krishna's mercy as well. That says it in the next line. Only by the Lord's causeless mercy could he create both spiritual personalities like Marichi and Narada, respectively. So this brings a valid point here. He could create both spiritual and material personalities like Marichi and Narada, respectively. So whatever we do, this comes back to the prema and kama. Everything will be traced back to a spiritual goal or a material goal, and every action can be a material action or a spiritual action, but every action becomes a spiritual action if we add Krishna to it. Prabhupada says very frequently, or I don't know if Prabhupada said it, but it's a very common phrase in ISKCON. Just add Krishna. Do whatever you do, be a businessman, be a lawyer, be a doctor, whatever you are, but just add Krishna. You don't have to you don't have to do anything else. And the final line of the purport, the final 2 lines of the purport, Brahma prayed to the Lord because he is very much dear to the surrendered soul. The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate towards him. So Brahma is praying to the Lord because he's very much, Brahma is praying to Krishna because he's dear to the surrendered souls. But he is also, so Brahma is, Krishna is dear to his devotees. We all, well, hopefully most of us are respecting everybody, but we are very dear to our closest friends. So that's the same thing with Krishna. Krishna loves his devotees because his devotees engage in the reciprocal love reciprocate it and love him. But what does it qualify to? Because say a surrendered soul, I mentioned this earlier, but Prabhupada says it in the last line of the purport. The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate towards him. If we are truly surrendered, we cannot have all these other things. If we are truly surrendered, everything we see is going to be Krishna's way. We have to see everything in relation to Krishna. So something material is Krishna's creation. It's not something else. It's part of Krishna's creation. When we see the sun come up, we say Krishna gave that sun the energy and the ability to enlighten the entire universe. And if we're always thinking about Krishna, then we have the ability to surrender, and then the Lord will become affectionate towards us. So to summarize, we have to do sadhana for our own benefit. Krishna is always happy. He's less happy or more happy. He's by his, because he does have he's karunasindhu. He's compassionate for the devotees. He's sympathetic to the devotees. So he wants us to come back, and because he knows that's the only way we can be happy. We have to come back eventually, and that's why we're doing sadhana. We're doing sadhana for our own benefit. Again, Krishna is on our side. Krishna is our soul friend. He was Arjuna's counsel in his time of need. He was Sudama's counsel in his time of need. Krishna is always going to be on your side. It might not show it then, but he will always be with you. Additionally, Krishna maintains us for our happiness. So whatever he's doing is going to be for our ultimate happiness. It is said that bhakti is cumulative. So to go back to Bharata Maharaj, in the first life he was in devotional service as Bharata Maharaj. He was not as Krishna conscious as his second life, the deer, and not as Krishna conscious as the third life, as Jada Bharat. So Krishna, so our happiness increases because it's ultimate. Krishna bhakti increases because it doesn't go away after every life like material happiness, but because bhakti is cumulative, it never goes away. It's like a investment. It's money that always will stay there. It is ultimate happiness. So Krishna is giving us ultimate happiness, not temporary happiness. Krishna also will help us do our duty. Krishna makes sure that we can our ultimate duty is to serve Krishna. So Krishna will put us in situations that will help us serve him. Like I mentioned Arjuna and I mentioned Sugriva. Krishna put them in positions to make sure that they could serve him better, and that's what Krishna will do for us as well. And finally, we have to take the first step towards Krishna. So we take the first step towards Krishna, and Krishna will take 100 steps towards us. We do our own personal sadhana and our own bhajan, and then Krishna will take 100 steps towards us and bestow all of his mercy on them. So with that, I'll finish now. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hari. I ended a little early, but you can take it now.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. I see that we have some comments in the chat box. I think there's a question as well. Would you want to read that out loud, or should I read it?
You can read it. I'll read it and try to formulate an answer.
Okay, so the question asked is by Darpan Prabhu. But the question is how to know whatever is happening to us to take us to Krishna or engage us in Kama. If our intuition says it's happening to take us to Krishna, but what's happening seems fearful or seems that it would engage us in Kama, should a devotee trust his intuition? I mean, not a devotee, but a normal person who is trying to be a devotee. Should that person trust his intuition? Very interesting.
I think what Darpan Prabhu is asking is if we should engage in sense gratification because we think that Krishna is telling us to engage in sense gratification. So Krishna won't tell us to engage in sense gratification because we know that we know that every action that we do will bind us into this material world more and more and more. So every bit of sense gratification will also bind us in this material world more and more and more. So and because Krishna wants us to go back home, he'll never engage us into to sense gratification that does not have any. He'll never engage into sense gratification. As for fear, Prabhupada said that how he knows that he's a devotee is that he's never fearful. He's never afraid of anything. So that's so when we're trying to become a devotee, we have to always trust that Krishna is going to do the best for us. So I think that answers your question, but I don't know.
Thank you, Prabhu. Secondly, the point was about so the thing which you mentioned, I think it makes sense. But the question was really about, like, let's say something is happening which is not like, let's say I'm getting a new job somewhere, and that job is far away from the temple. There's no temple nearby, and then it seems to be okay. It seems to be that if I'll go to this job, then I might donate a lot of money to Krishna, let's say, and then fear would say, oh, if I'll get away from the association, I might lose Krishna consciousness, and then one intuition is saying, no, this is for Krishna only. So in such cases, should we trust our intuition that it's happening like in a Krishna conscious way, or should we say no, it's not happening in that way? It's like that.
I think that if we believe that we are, Hari just put in the chat, we can consult a guru. We are not in this Krishna conscious journey alone. We have Shastra, Sadhu, and Guru. So we can consult our Shastra, and we can consult our Guru, and we can consult other sadhus that we associate with. So I think that in a situation like that, if you're consulting with those three representatives of Krishna, then you should, and if they say that's okay, then you should believe that it will take you closer to Krishna. But you have
Perfect.
to ask.
That answered the question. Yeah, that's perfect. We should consult the guru. Great.
Yeah.
Great, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Does if anybody like to ask a question or say a comment or something, they can unmute themselves and speak now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Bhakta Rahul, for the wonderful class. It was very inspiring, very enlivening, really very delightful. And thank you so much for taking us through all these opulences and bringing so many different angles of vision to shine on this verse that, you know, it would seem simple, but actually it's encompassing everything. And you really brought that out, and it's very very wonderful to hear and see. So I just wanted to make a comment about one of the opulences, which is the opulence of renunciation, Krishna's opulence of renunciation. And the question was, so how is he maintaining us through his renunciation? In fact, that's the only way that we're being maintained, is because of his renunciation. So Krishna, we're trying to cultivate love for Krishna, but Krishna's love for us is eternal. He's always deeply, deeply in love with us. And it's much more than it's even possible for us to ever love him, because, you know, he's infinite and we're tiny. So the love that he has in his heart is also infinite. So I, as a jiva, instead of being interested in cultivating Krishna's love, I decided I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be the controller, I want to be the proprietor, and I want to be the owner myself. And I'm not interested in this loving relationship. And so Krishna, so it's unrequited love that Krishna, he lets us go. So that's the first thing, that his renunciation is in letting us go and allowing us to make our own choice and
Redevelop our relationship.
And then, so at the end of the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, "Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe." So he lets us go, and it's, Srila Prabhupada was fond of saying that Godhead is light and nescience is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there can be no nescience. So it's only with him that there's light. But the fact is that he made this material world, but it's not like, so, I mean, it is a world full of suffering, but it's not only suffering. Like, even the people who are completely forgetful of Krishna, you know, he made this system that there's good karma and bad karma. So, you know, one can do something and then there's some kind of a comfortable condition. So at any given moment, usually whatever problem there is the most salient. And then whatever is not a problem, we don't remember. But actually anything that isn't a problem, it is actually not a problem because of Krishna's mercy. Like without Krishna's mercy, you know, there's actually nothing. Like, for instance, on the West Coast, now the air quality is extremely terrible because there's smoke hanging over the entire West Coast. Now, when that wasn't the case, then people were just breathing air. And then usually when you're breathing clean air, you don't even remember that, you know, oh, you know, the air is nice and clean. You know, I mean, you just think that that's the way it's supposed to be. but it's not just that it's the way it's supposed to be because Krishna decided that it was supposed to be that way. It's the air, the sun, the sun and the moon are his two eyes. So the universe is not just covered in cold and dark because it's coming from Krishna's radiance and warmth, and that's all. So basically, generosity is the characteristic of renunciation, and Krishna is the most generous person. He's generous even to all of the living entities like me who were just interested in forgetting him. That's how his renunciation is maintaining us.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. I was struggling when I was preparing. I was struggling to find an example for how Krishna maintains us with his renunciation, but yeah, that was very enlightening. So thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, and thank you so again for this very. And I hope that we'll hear more classes from you. It's really, really nice.
Yeah. I also have a comment, Prabhu. So Rahul Prabhu, I can imagine that at your age, what I was doing, where I was. So proud of you. So at this age, you have so much of knowledge.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Goes to your parents and then all goes to Prabhupada who created this institution for all of us. So wonderful. Thank you. I was just thinking couple of points about opulences. So this is relevant to this. I was reading some other book. So you go Swami explaining few of things. I just want to share. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So opulences in general, from Krishna's perspective and from Jiva's perspective. If we see from Krishna's perspective, it reflects or resonates different way. From the Jiva's perspective, it resonates different. So how do you see? So perspective and perception. Perspective is from what do you see? Perspective is from where do you see? It changes. It changes based on it's a sadhana, it's a maturity and then a level of understanding. The deeper how much you have, it changes. Layers changes. And there is no limit for that. So if you take strength, individual, if you take fame, beauty, knowledge, all those things. Let's talk from Jiva's perspective. So people get puffed up or they may use in Krishna's service, two cases, right? So now, at the same time, when it comes to renunciation, so our renunciation is perspective. What do you have to renounce? Nothing is ours anyway. So this we cannot even claim that belongs to Jiva. And belongs to Krishna. So what do I have? I don't have anything, but I do have the thought of renouncing that I can be renouncing.
Yeah.
The thought of renouncing is the only thing I possess, which is my identity that I can renounce. So then that brings all other opulences.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That renunciation, the art of renouncing, has all other opulences: strength, fame, beauty. So Prabhupada is 75 years old. People would say, so he's so beautiful. But if you see physical perspective, is old, wrinkles in the face. Is it really beauty? But what is the beauty?
That he's using his renounced.
So that's when he has Krishna, he has all of this fame, name, strength, beauty, it automatically follows. But if you stuck with each individual thing, Krishna is gone. I have mine, I, me, mine. Name, fame, strength, everything is there. At the same time, is not there. It's only is in thought. But when thought is gone, when I renounce for Krishna, then you have all of them default automatically comes. Krishna gives the fame. He make you beautiful. He make you famous. He make you powerful. There's so many things happen. So this how this dynamic or paradigm works amazing. That dynamism, that angle of, like, there's so many dimensions, 1 dimension, 2 dimension. This dimension is unfathomable, and only one can experience that. So I just wanted to say, Jiva Goswami explained it so beautiful, amazing. You understand the point, right? The renunciation has all other, but all others doesn't have renunciation. The all others will make us proud, take us away from Krishna, which is an opulence of Krishna.
Yeah, so if we renounce our opulences and say everything is for Krishna, Krishna will give all the opulences naturally.
No, we cannot even think like that. This is I'm renouncing for Krishna.
Yeah, we're renouncing for Krishna.
His.
Okay.
Yeah, this a thought of renouncing, that renunciation itself is a renunciation. I am belongs to Krishna. I don't have anything because I am here to serve Krishna. So whatever, if you put in a palace, wonderful. If you put on the tree, doesn't matter. If you have is whatever you want, it doesn't matter. In whatever situation we have, try to link that to Krishna and somehow do what Krishna wanted. Then eventually, That is real renunciation. That has all other opulences inbuilt.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
I just want to add the point. If somebody wants to add anything, I see.
So, Rahul, this is a wonderful class.
Thank you so
So
much, Prabhuji.
you should continue to view more as time permits. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Lord may bless you with so much knowledge and love. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Continue.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just had a comment kind of thing that I like the point that you were mentioning about the verse from the 5th canto. It was very interesting. I saw that you underlined the line that it said that the renunciation of the personality, it is because he was attracted by Krishna. When we usually think of renunciation, think of the hardcore yogi in the middle of the mountains meditating and not eating anything, but the renunciation of a devotee is because he's actually attracted. Well, it's not just the cutting off of it. It is it is getting attracted by something. And I was just thinking of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada gave us the term. I mean, it's but we have the book called The Higher Taste, and it's a cookbook, and it said, once you get the higher taste, you wouldn't want to go down. So my question is that once you get the higher taste, is it even counted as renunciation anymore? In that it's not really not renouncing if you're not renouncing if you have no interest for it. Like if I ask like a senior devotee, are you really renouncing meat eating? They'll probably say no. It's not. It's our lives are actually better, and we're more attracted by Krishna Prasadam than meat eating. It's not really of an austerity or a renunciation in one term. You can say is considered a little bit of an austerity. But once you get that higher taste, it's not really an austerity anymore. It's more of a pleasure, a way of life almost. So I don't know if you have any extra comments on that. So you'd like to say anything about that?
So, Satsvarup Maharaj defined renunciation as having no personal interests. So, we're eating prasad for our higher taste, but that is because only by eating sanctified food will we be able to have a clear mind to serve Krishna. But if we eat meat, then we're losing out our compassion, which is a dharmic principle, and it'll pollute our consciousness, and we won't be able to serve Krishna as well. So everything being renounced is for the purpose of serving Krishna. So though we might be having an indirect higher taste of the prasad, we won't be. That's not the point of it. The point is to purify our minds to serve Krishna better. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and to continue with that point, renunciation is actually useless if it's not used in the service of Krishna. You can see in the example of, who was that? I think, was it Saubhari Muni, who was meditating under the Yamuna, and then just by seeing some fish, he fell down from spiritual life. Because so I don't know about his renunciation, but it wasn't meant to please Krishna. And then he I think this is described in the ninth canto. I think the ninth canto. So yeah, renunciation is kind of useless, or any of the opulences, if you think about it. That if you maintain if you have any of the opulences in your life into a minute degree, it's kind of useless without the service of Krishna. So I remember so our old temple pujari used to tell me that Swarup Damodar Prabhu, he used to say that gold, I remember very clearly in a Sunday feast class, he was saying that gold not used to glorify Krishna is described as kind of like excrement, decorating excrement. So gold itself and any opulence should be used in the service of Krishna, because if we're using temporary things to glorify even more temporary things, it is just it's kind of like putting a lipstick on a pig. It's not gonna make it more beautiful. It's like making something beautiful that is inherently not beautiful. I don't know if yeah. So that was a thought that I had. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Burijan Prabhu actually writes in his book, in his book titled Japa, Prabhupada did not create the International Society for Mind Neglect. He created the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So you're giving the example of the sage who was meditating and then saw the fish and fell down. That if we're just trying to renounce all of our desires, it doesn't matter, because we're naturally, jivas naturally have attraction to something. So we can't just suppress our desires. We just have to turn our desires to Krishna. That's part of what renouncing is, by having none of our personal interests and only having interests of Krishna, of serving Krishna.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment or question?
Yes, I have a comment for what you said, Hari. So, basically, whatever Krishna does is a reason for it. In this cosmic manifestation, it's material or spiritual, everything is complete in itself, because it's come from the all complete. Even the material. I was just hearing a seminar, a lecture on Srila Prabhupada, who's saying that even in this material world, the place of misery is less than the place of opulence. Place of misery is the 14 planetary systems, or the 14 planetary systems, only few places is the place for misery, but more places for opulences, which is to enjoy. What is the reason? When Krishna himself says Dukkalayam Asasudam, but even in Dukkalayam, even in this material world here, there are some opulences, places, nice places. Even we can see our own things. Why? Because Maya has a specific purpose. Maya has a specific purpose. A specific purpose is a shadow. This is our shadow. So shadow has no dependence with the real, the direct dependence with the real object, right? The shadow doesn't exist without main object. If you stand, sun comes, there's a shadow. So Maya is like shadow. So what hasn't, she's in charge of that. Krishna is giving the opulence to you or me or somebody. Devotee may use in Krishna's service, non-devotee may not use it. But the reason for it, because by doing it, he or she one day will understand. They learn in a hard way. They learn in a different way, but will learn the lesson. That is the main purpose. Opulences will never be, Krishna's creation will never be waste. All opulences, there is a purpose. Even if you say poisonous plant, there is a purpose for that. There is a purpose for everything, but how do we see it? Devotees can see it because now he or she has gone a little up and they could use in Krishna. Other people could not see it because they can use that. Eventually, they learn what not to do. That itself is an opulence for that person. Indirectly, take a couple of steps towards Krishna eventually. If that experience is not there, the person will never know. That's the reason sometimes parents allow the kids to do mistake. They learn from the mistake. That mistake will be Maya is the in charge. She does it out of compassion, not with a vengeance or taking taking something on it. She does it so perfectly. Jiva Goswami explains this in Tattva Sundarbha. She explains so perfectly. You don't even know, but she's helping you. So opulence of Krishna is Om Purnamada Purnamada, that everything what comes from Krishna has the purpose, is complete by itself, even the poison. The wise who knows it, they can use in Krishna's service. Otherwise, they misuse it, but they will learn eventually. So in that sense, that is also helping the person. So, but how do we see it?
So in the short term, if we think about it in a long-term perspective and a short-term perspective, I understand your point that it's for the person who knows how to use the opulence, then no worries. But
Wonderful.
a person who doesn't know how to use it, then it'll still be a teaching point for them that they'll.
For that person, actually, in the totality, in the totality, Vishnu's breath is billions and billions of years. You cannot even count. For this person, even few lifetimes learning is insignificant. But the gain for that is going back to Godhead, getting back to the path of bhakti. Even if a person takes a million lifetimes, misused very badly. That's the reason karma is not eternal. But that is a fraction of a second for Vishnu. That's what Vishnu sees. He knows, because not in a single drop of water or energy will be lost in this world. It changes the form. Even the person going through millions of lifetimes, it's a fraction of a second for Krishna. Oh, my child, you went through that, now we learn it, come back. Oh, we got it. Okay, now I'm done. I don't want to do that, go back. That is an amazing concept. So, but if only that person perspective, we cannot see, because we are not the judge for that person. It is me and Krishna or Vishnu. But for you, when I see it could be different. But for that person, it's never be lost, because in the path of bhakti or in the cosmic, everything is under Krishna. There is nothing beyond Krishna's purview. Even the person going through as we're talking, so many people are suffering. So many people are going through agony, but they may not even know that they're suffering, but they're in the journey. But as a devotee, you're supposed to help them, that you did your job. But it's up to that person has to experience. Experience is the mother of a teacher. The one has to experience. You can teach, you can bang on some people with the philosophy. No, the person can overnight. Valmiki Muni, 1 second. Narada Muni, 1 second. If you see so many people in Bhagavatam also, that some people went through so much. What a transformation. They cast other people and went away towards Krishna. But how? That experience came from that. So when I look for it, and I can judge, oh, this person is doing that person, but no, that person is going the transformation. And that space is created by Vishnu himself within him. The space for him is a fraction of a second. For us, it could be billions of years. So that's a beautiful point. That's what I said, perspective and perception. How do we see and produce it? But I can only see from my perspective. I cannot judge you or her or assume, because it changes the dimension. Because at the end, the conclusion is that everything comes from Krishna as a Purna. It's all complete by itself.
So it's also it's also dependent on how we use it and how we see it and how we use it. And if we see other people misusing it, we can only tell them, but we cannot change their perspective too much. That's an individual. That's an individual point.
And the eyes of Krishna, you did your job, you're good. It's up to that person now.
Okay. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Nice point.
Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Sarbuchadem.
So nice. And after a long time, I'm hearing from you. I couldn't believe that you can able to speak like this. It was amazing. And the way the examples, and you split the verse into each word and given a tremendous examples from various acharyas. It was really amazing. I can see the future of ISKCON now, like by seeing you, Hari. Hari is becoming like a one-man army for Prabhupada himself.
Yeah.
So it was very nice.
Future leaders.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Keep going, and I think we should hear more from you again.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Rahul.
Any other points? Anybody have any comments, questions that they'd like to share? Or we can pause our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam for this week. Okay. Well, thank you very much for everybody for joining. We'd like to thank again His Grace Rahul Prabhu for serving the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Rahul, is this your first class you've served?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Wow, that's really amazing. So thank you all for joining. And tomorrow is Ekadasi, and Amarendra Prabhu is speaking. So the next Saturday we'll have another speaker. So Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
kripa sindhubhya patitanam
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Grace Rahul Prabhu ki jai.
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 Thank you, Rahul Prabhu. Everybody can unmute.